Good morning, everyone. This is Han-Kyuri and this is Shinjie, and we're going to present Phonology in media. And different from the previous group, we'll be presenting our presentation in English. So today we'll talk about phone, phoneme, grapheme, deletion and deletion, syllable and stress, all regarding a short comic skit featuring the director of the movie Us and Get Out, Key and Peele substitution teaching. So before we move on to the explanations, let's watch this clip.
All right, listen up, y'all. I'm y'all substitute teacher, Mr. Garvey. I taught school for 20 years in the inner city, so don't even think about messing with me. Y'all feel me? Hey, let's take roll here. Jay Quellen. Where's Jay Quellen at? No Jay Quellen here? Yeah.
Do you mean Jacqueline?
Okay, so that's how it's gonna be. Y'all wanna play? Okay, man. I got my eye on you, Jay Quellen. Balake. Where is Balake at? No Balake here today. Yes, sir.
My name's Blake.
Are you out of your goddamn mind?
Blake?
What? Do you want to go to war, Balake? Because we could go to war.
No.
I'm for real. I'm for real. So you better check yourself. D nice. Is there a D nice? If one of y'all says some silly ass name, this whole class is gonna feel my wrath. Now D nice.
Do you mean Denise?
Son of a bitch. You say your name right now.
Denise?
Say it right.
Denise?
Correctly.
Denise?
Right.
Denise?
Right.
You nice?
That's better. Now, Aaron, where are you? Where is Aaron right now? No Aaron, huh? Well, you better be sick, dead, or mute, Aaron. Here. Oh, man. Why didn't you answer me the first time I said it? Huh? I'm just asking you. I said it like 4 times. So why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
Son of a You got messed up, Aaron! Now take your ass on down to Oshag Hennessy's office right now and tell him exactly what you did. Oshag Hennessy!
Principal O'Shaughnessy?
Get out of my goddamn classroom before I break my foot up in your ass! Insubordinate and churlish. Timothy.
Present.
Thank you.
So did you notice the mistakes the substitute teacher made when he was picking the role? So now from the presentation, we'll go through the reasons behind it and we'll approach it in a more phonological way. First, before we move on, let's talk about the basic units of phonology. First is grapheme, phoneme, and phone. So the grapheme is the smallest unit of a writing system. A phoneme is a set of phonetically similar sounds that are in complementary distribution, and a phone is the concrete physical realization of a speech sound. So in other words, a grapheme is used when we spell words or when we read words, the alphabet we know, and a phoneme and phone is used to indicate the pronunciation of the words. So what's the difference between a phoneme and a phone? Well, the difference can be explained easily by the relationships between the two. So if you look here, you can see that one phoneme may be realized as several phones. This means, so this each is a phone, and when we pronounce top, the T that goes in front is aspirated. When we say stop, because T is behind the S, it's not aspirated. So these two are the actual realization of the pronunciation, but in the logical term, we just put these in the same phoneme. And the second rule is that several phonemes may be realized as one phone. So it's the opposite case of this. Well, the phoneme A can be pronounced in in solid and also in in solidity. And same goes for the O sound below. Phone, the O in phone is pronounced in phonetic. So several phonemes may be realized as one phone. So for an example, one of the lines we saw in the skit was, I taught school for 20 years in the inner city, so don't even think about messing with me. In this case, if we see inner city, there's the same I pronunciation. However, in the first word inner, because the I is in front of a nasal sound and the I is nasalized. In the city, it's not the case. So you can see the same word or the same phoneme I is realized as different phones.
So as we saw in the previous slides, there are discrepancies in the spelling of a sound of a word. So the same sound can be represented by different letters, and the same letters also may have different sounds. So it's no wonder that sometimes the number of sounds and the number of letters in a word may not match. This is why we say that the number of graphemes and the number of phones are not the same in a word. So as we see here in the slide, grapheme is the same thing as a number of letters in a word, and phone is a number of sounds. So if we look at some examples that have the same number of letters and sounds, there are sun, which has 3 sounds, and city is, and then the I in the middle is E, and then the T, and then the E sound. So there's 4. Sorry, that's a mistake in the letter. And the last word first has both 5 letters in the word, and also has 5 sounds. So those 5 phones. However, there are much more words that do not match and that do not have the same number of letters and sounds. So if you see the second line here, now has 3 letters in the word. However, the pronunciation of it is n and then ow. So there's only 2 sounds. And then in dead, there's 4 letters in the word. However, it's d and then e and then d. So there's only 3 sounds. And then the last word answer, there's 6 letters in the word. However, it's only e, n, s, and then the R sound at the end. So there's only 5. The funnier example that we saw in the video was pronouncing the names. So in the short sketch that we watched, the comedy lies in the substitute teacher pronouncing the names wrong. If we compare the grapheme and the phone of the names, we can see why the teacher mistook the pronunciations of the words. So the name Blake is spelled Blake, as you see, there's 5 letters, and if you write it phonologically, it's written as you see in the second line, and there's only 4 phones in the letter, in the word. However, the teacher pronounced it as ballet, so we can see that it does not match the phone. And then the second name was Aaron. However, he pronounced it as Aaron, so we can see that he tried to pronounce each and every individual letter in the word. And then the last name, it's pretty hard to pronounce, it's O'Shaughnessy. However, the teacher pronounced it as O'Shag-Hennessy, so we can see as well here that the number of letters in a word and the phones do not match. And next I'm going to talk about deletion, which is also the same thing as deletion. So deletion or deletion is the omission of one or more sounds such as a vowel, a consonant, or a whole syllable in a word or phrase. And the difference between deletion and deletion, the term itself, is that deletion is usually used to explain the phonological aspect in a word. However, deletion is used when the word has been changed in a historical sense. So if it's been changed in the past, we use the word deletion. So deletion and deletion, it occurs commonly in the English speech, and it's very common in casual or rapid speech. So as you see in the sketch, the teacher pronounces words very fast, and there's a lot of deletion happening in the sketch. So some of the words that are an example is mystery. If we pronounce it slowly, it's mystery. However, if we pronounce it fast, it's mystery. And then funeral is also funeral, 3 syllables. However, if you pronounce it very quickly, it's funeral. So there's only 2. And then memory is the same, so there's 3. However, if you pronounce it quickly, it becomes memory. And then there's also the silent G sound in a word. So the silent G in a word occurs mostly in 2 places. So the first is when it comes in the initial position before a nasal consonant. So if you see the first word is pronounced nastic, gnostic. However, the second one, if there's an A in the beginning, so it does not start at the initial position, it becomes agnostic. And then the second time where it becomes silent is when it comes before a syllable final nasal consonant. So if we see the word sign, we don't pronounce it as sign. However, if we pronounce signature, you can clearly hear the G sound in the middle. And also the same goes for design and designation. And the most common thing that occurs in the sketch is slurred speech. So this is not in the prescriptive language. However, we can hear a lot of English speakers use this kind of language. You all can become y'all, and want to becomes wanna. Out of your mind becomes out of your mind, and going to becomes gonna. So you can see here the IPA before deletion is written as you see above. However, after deletion, it just becomes simplified and becomes gonna. So the reason why this occurs is because it's much more easier to pronounce and much more faster. So the reason why you all becomes y'all, this may be kind of new for a lot of non-English speaking people. The reason that we found was because in order to pronounce the U sound, the lips needs to be rounded because you have to say the word you. However, it's much more easier to just pronounce y'all because their lips do not have to be rounded, and it can just move straight from the y sound to the all sound. And so that's why we thought there was a deletion in the word y'all. And then the last explanation is contractions. So this is what we see in a lot of English words. So I am becomes I'm, it is becomes it's, and did not becomes didn't. So this is actually used in a lot of written language as well. And this is an example from the line in the sketch. Why didn't you answer me the first time I said it? I'm just asking you. I said it like 4 times, so why didn't you say it the first time in Iran? So you can see it occurs very frequently in speech and also in the written words as well.
So next we'll talk about syllables. Syllables are how you read a word, and it's a phonological unit composed of 1 or more phonemes. So if you see here, this is the sign of a syllable. A syllable is made of an onset, nucleus, and coda. And as the previous presenters said, the nucleus and codas make a rhyme. And we can see rhymes in a lot of lyrics and poems. So for example, in cat, the k sound before the vowel is onset, and the nucleus is the A, and the coda is the t sound. And here, the nucleus can be a vowel sound, or it can be syllable consonants, which are the nasal sounds and liquid sounds. If you have syllables, you also have word stress. So English has a stress on 1 or more syllables in every content word, and 1 primary stress in every word. This is important, and we will discuss it later on. So the example we have here is the name Jacqueline, which the substitute teacher pronounced as Jaqueline. The IPA transcription is like this, and the syllable, the first word is pronounced as Jaqueline, which has 3 syllables and 2 stresses. And here is just Jacqueline, 2 syllables and just 1 stress at the front. So if we draw a branch of syllables, in here there's 3 syllables, and in here there's 2 syllables. And like I said before, usually a word only has 1 primary syllable, so pronouncing it J. Quellen would be incorrect. Second is in the case of Denise. The substitute teacher pronounces as D-nice, 2 syllables and 2 stresses. However, the original pronunciation is Denise with 2 syllables, but the stress only at the behind. The same goes for O'Shaughnessy. The substitute teacher pronounced it as O'Shag-Hennessy, and in this case, he used 5 syllables and he put in the sound in between. And like I said before, usually the nucleus cannot be on the H sound. It can only be on consonant syllable consonants or on the vowels. So this is incorrect, while O'Shaughnessy is correct. So this is all we have for you today, and we hope you will have a basic understanding of phonetics. Thanks for the presentation.
오늘 처음 특별한 일이 없이 발표했는데 두 분이 발표한 것에 대해서 어떻게 점수하시겠습니까?